Hello, I'm Adrian Finnegan. This is Counting the Cost on Al Jazeera, your weekly look at the world of business and economics. This week, Amazon's just bought Souq.com, but can it convince the Middle East's 50 million consumers that it's a one-stop shop for online shopping? Also this week, the Gulf and Brexit, why GCC countries are still looking to invest in the UK, even as its divorce from the EU gets underway. Plus, global employer Toshiba is fighting for its financial life, but can the 142-year-old company change with the times? Internet giant Amazon has snapped up the largest online retailer in the Middle East. Souq.com, which is based in Dubai, will give Amazon access to customers in Egypt, the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. Souq.com was started 12 years ago by a businessman from Syria. Goldman Sachs has called it the biggest ever technology mergers and acquisition transition in the Arab world. But online retail shopping has yet to truly take off here in the Middle East compared with other countries. It accounts for less than 1% of total sales in the region, according to market researcher Euromonitor, compared to, say, China, the biggest e-commerce market in the world. According to Nielsen, online sales currently contribute 11% of total retail sales in China. Worldwide, e-commerce retail sales reached just under $2 trillion last year, according to eMarketer. In China, Alibaba is the dominant player. It's Amazon in the US, and these companies are currently the biggest internet retailers in the world. And as more people use their phones to shop, online retail is predicted to keep on growing. Let's speak to an e-commerce expert. Andrew KITSON joins us from London. He's a senior analyst covering global information and communications technology at BMI. Andrew, welcome to Counting the Cost. Why would Amazon choose an acquisition as a way of getting into the MENA region, and why Souq.com as opposed to any of its competitors?
Okay, first of all, making acquisition means it can move very quickly into the market rather than having to build up its presence from scratch. Although it doesn't already have a direct presence in the Middle East, it is one of the most searched for terms in connection with online shopping. So it's imperative that it moves into the market now. We also see opportunities for it to engage with more consumers as they come into the market, and also Iran is becoming more of an opportunity for online and physical retailers. Why Souq.com? It's an existing player. It's got a huge addressable market, a huge loyal customer base. It works with many small and large retailers from the traditional mold. So it's obviously going into partnership with a very established player that has great growth opportunities.
How big a slice of the MENA region's online retail market will Souq.com then be looking to take?
Okay, well, the Middle East e-commerce market is estimated to be worth around $24 billion at the moment. We're forecasting that to rise to $44 billion by 2020. And with Souq.com being one of the largest players in the market, this represents a huge opportunity for Amazon. There are other players in the market, not all of them as large or as dynamic or as far-reaching. So this is a good acquisition for Amazon.
Will the lack of a Western-style postal service hinder Amazon and Souq.com's ambitions?
It hasn't hindered Amazon's efforts to go into new markets around the world at all, the lack of a postal service. They rely on third parties often to deliver packages and goods. They work with independent players in terms of logistics, so they can find any means necessary locally to get the goods to the customers. It's more challenging, I'll admit, in the Middle East. Of course, logistics is one of the least developed parts of the Middle East economy. So they will be investing, I think, in their own fleets, building up warehouses, and looking to partnership with other companies in the logistics space and to see how they can develop those businesses to suit their needs.
You talked about Souq.com's competitors. With such a market to capture in such a relatively prosperous region, competition's bound to be fierce. Where is that competition going to come from? And is this a battle that Souq.com/Amazon can win?
I think Souk.com was on the back foot already, even before this acquisition. Its owners had already taken it as far as they possibly could, and that's because, as you say, there is more competition coming from local and international players. So that competition will be coming from local markets where traditional retailers are moving online. It's coming from global players as well. Amazon is one of many in the global market. So we're seeing a lot of investment coming into e-commerce at the moment because with more people having higher disposable incomes, they want convenience, they want timeliness. And so although it is going to be a highly competitive market, we believe there is ample scope for Amazon, for this new entrant Noon.com and many others to flourish.
Of course, the Middle East, in particular, known for its enormous shopping malls, and there are many of them. What impact is this likely to have on footfall in those malls for traditional retail?
I think it will merely add to demand for retail goods. Obviously, you're going to see less demand for mid-tier items, things that like books, clothing, footwear, things like that are going to be the main things bought and sold using e-commerce. Basics like foodstuffs are still going to be the things that people go to malls for. And at the higher end of the market, luxury goods are really something that can be advertised and promoted on e-commerce sites, but you're going to want to go and see those in the flesh, as it were, before you commit to buying those. So I think it's really the mid-tier of the market that's going to suffer from this.
But is Amazon's acquisition of Souk.com a wake-up call, if you like, to traditional retailers that they've had it relatively easy for such a long time in the MENA region? Absolutely,
yes. The Middle East is now at the stage where North America and Western Europe was 10 years ago. Online retailers are few and far between, so traditional players need to develop their online platforms as quickly as they can. The upside to this, of course, is that Amazon has a very good track record of partnering with existing retailers. For example, here in the UK, many retailers have both their own dedicated online stores as well as a presence on Amazon and eBay as well. So making or transforming their business models to omni-channel is the way forward. They can learn from what's happened in North America.
Andrew, it's been great to talk to you. Many thanks indeed for being with us.
Thank you for your time.
Now, signed and delivered as the process of Brexit formally gets underway, one country that decided to increase its commitment to the UK is Qatar. Al Jazeera's Mohammed JAMJOOM followed Britain's Prime Minister Theresa May to the UK's second largest city.
In Birmingham, British business was on display. A convention centre showroom full of everything from cars to drones. Spirits were high as pitches came from top levels of government.
For my plan for Britain is not just a plan to leave the EU, but a plan to build a stronger economy and a fairer society.
On day 2 of the Qatar-UK Business and Investment Forum, British firms highlighted investment-ready projects in areas like healthcare, sport, and cybersecurity. The first day of the forum, which had been held in London, saw Qatar announce a major investment of over $6 billion in the UK over the course of the next 3 to 5 years. The British government, which says it intends to create a global Britain after Brexit, is still working to convince citizens that Britain's economy can flourish after it leaves the EU. That's why Qatar's investment plans, announced the same week as Article 50 is to be triggered, comes as such a huge relief. Despite worries about what impact Brexit may have on the economy, the UK's Secretary for International Trade says he's optimistic.
Whatever the short-term distractions that may be faced, investors like the government of Qatar have been willing to take a long-term view of the UK economy. The fundamentals are strong. We remain a very attractive place for foreign direct investment. Last year was another record, and this year, fingers crossed.
For Qatar, which already has significant investments and owns much property in Great Britain, interest in the UK is nothing new. Qatar's Minister of Finance told us the UK will remain a preferred business destination.
And I think picking or choosing UK and especially London and Birmingham was not a coincidence. We know this is an area that we can really do more and strengthen the relation between the two countries.
Still, Despite the upbeat mood surrounding this forum, academics say the British government has a lot more work to do to ensure Brexit will only cause a temporary period of uncertainty.
If we haven't worked out the intricacies of the regulatory environment, what is the trade and tariff barriers, how are we facilitating freer trade and freer movement of labour from different parts of the world and from Europe itself. If we haven't figured that out, the uncertainty will continue and inward investment will really decline, and that is of concern.
A concern that may not have been apparent during these 2 days, but will seemingly be sure to persist in many parts of Great Britain for some time yet to come.
Well, joining us now from Beirut is Nasib GABRIEL, who's the chief economist at Beirut-based Byblos Bank. Thanks for being with us. So Britain's Prime Minister Theresa May began the process of withdrawal from the European Union this week by triggering Article 50. Now, we know that Britain wants to begin trade talks with the EU as soon as possible. The EU, though, would prefer to leave trade deals towards the end of the withdrawal negotiations. When do you think we'll get some clarity on this? What sort of trade deal will Britain get?
This is a very unclear proposition so far. It depends on what kind of negotiations the two sides end up engaging in, whether it's a hard exit from the European Union or a soft exit. But I think, in my opinion, the debate is being a little bit misplaced. It's the Europeans who are concerned about the UK's exit from the EU and should be concerned simply because it's one of their biggest export destinations. It's the third largest export destination for Germany. It's the fourth largest export destination for Italy and Belgium. It's the fifth largest export destination for France. So it's the interest of other EU members to delay trade negotiations as much as possible. And it's in the interest of the UK to speed those trade negotiations.
Qatar this week announced that it's going to invest more than $6 billion in the UK over the next 5 years. What are your thoughts on that as Britain looks to expand its horizons, if you like, beyond the European Union?
Well, the UK has always been one of the favorite investment destinations of Qatar and other Gulf Cooperation Council economies. And there is a reason why I believe the UK will remain one of the favorite destinations for investments, not only of GCC economies, but of other economies around the world and investors. It is the largest European economy. It is the seventh most competitive economy in the world. It has the largest stock market in Europe and the fifth largest globally. It has the sixth most efficient judicial system to settle disputes. It has the seventh best business environment in the world. These assets will remain. These advantages are not going to decline or regress or disappear just because the UK has left the EU. On the contrary, in my opinion, Qatar and other GCC economies are looking at the UK as an opportunity now to increase their investments. I think that's the right move by Qatar.
You say it's the right move. Why? Why do they need to diversify their investments away from the region, from the GCC region? Well,
you know, sovereign wealth funds in Gulf Cooperation Councils have invested a lot of their assets in advanced economies, whether in North America or in Western Europe, as well as in some emerging markets. Today, I believe the UK offers investment opportunities, first of all, because of the weakening of the British pound. So assets priced in other currencies will look more attractive. And the economy will remain the fifth largest economy in the world and the largest economy in Europe. I'm totally against these notions that the UK economy is going to decline and to be so negatively affeced by its exit from the European Union. The UK economy has been for hundreds of years an open market and trade relations have always existed. I believe if you look at it in historical context, the EU is only 60 years old, while the UK trade relations with the world are hundreds and hundreds of years old.
But Britain's Prime Minister...
And that's why, in my opinion, they will remain.
But Britain's Prime Minister Theresa May has said that no deal is better than a bad deal for the UK. What impact would a hard Brexit have on GCC investments in the UK? Would it be good for them or bad for them?
I believe foreign direct investments, whether in the UK or in other economies, are long-term in nature. So if there is, at one point, an economic slowdown, for whatever reason, these investments will stay. They're not going to pull out simply because of a period of economic slowdown or disruption for whatever reason, whether it's trade in this case or negotiations or even political instability. It's not portfolio investments we're talking about. We're talking about foreign direct investments. And the vision of Gulf investors is the long-term vision. It's not a short-term. And as we have seen, Qatari investments in major UK projects and properties are long-term in nature. They're not dependent on short-term considerations and on short-term developments in the global economy or in the UK economy.
Many thanks indeed, sir. Good to have you with us on Counting the Cost.
Thank you.
Still to come on Counting the Cost.
It's a bronze statue of a little girl in a ponytail that's causing quite a stir. But it's not just any girl, it's the fearless girl. I'm Gabriel ELIZONDO in the heart of Wall Street in New York City. That story coming up.
But first, it is the largest city in the world, and the sheer volume of people living in Mexico City means that it's no stranger to high levels of air pollution. Now, two entrepreneurs are hoping to change that. David Mercer went to meet them.
This small mechanic shop might seem like an unlikely place for an environmental revolution. But here, an hour west of Mexico City, Alvaro de la Paz and Hector RUIZ are working to transform their country. After 5 years of research and design, they've become experts in electric car conversions, and little by little, Mexicans are starting to take notice.
Convertir un auto de gasolina eléctrico.
Converting a petrol-powered car into an electric one actually makes it more straightforward. The original combustion system is extremely complex and it endures a lot of heat and stress. It's replaced by much simpler components that then make the car more reliable.
Alvaro and Hector charge upwards of $6,500 for a complete conversion, half of what it would cost in the United States. They fabricate some of the parts needed right here in their shop, helping to lower their costs. The pair believes every one of the petrol-powered vehicles they've converted for clients is a victory. And the motivation for their work isn't hard to find. Mexico City and the surrounding valley are one of the most congested places on Earth. And despite government actions to get cars off the streets, more than 8 million vehicles circulate here daily. That makes air pollution a major problem. Hector and Alvaro meet with a consultant who's advising the government on grassroots solutions to air contamination.
I think this is a very good project and should receive support from the government. It benefits the entire population by reducing pollution while offering an electric vehicle at an accessible price.
Government funding would help Hector and Alvaro cut costs even more while scaling up production. Get people behind the wheel of one of their electric cars, and they begin to look at driving differently.
We call it the green smile. Green because the vehicle makes no noise and doesn't pollute anything. When the client hops in, they're fascinated. It's a unique driving experience.
Providing solutions to pollution while giving new life to old technology. Two entrepreneurs hoping for a road full of opportunities.
David Mercer reporting now. One of the best-known industrial names in Japan, the world even, is Toshiba. It's battling the worst financial crisis in its history. This week it said that its US nuclear unit, Westinghouse Electric, filed for bankruptcy protection. Back in February, Toshiba failed to deliver its quarterly results. After missing that deadline, it said this week that the loss for the fiscal year may grow to $9 billion. Now that would represent the largest loss ever for a Japanese manufacturer. Well, the 142-year-old company employs more than 180,000 people around the world. But now there are big questions about its future. Toshiba hopes that by selling its prized unit that makes memory chips for smartphones, it can help offset those record losses. The crisis has also thrown Japan's corporate culture, which places a company's reputation above all else, sharply into focus. Management seemed simply unable to deliver bad news. We asked Andrew Leung, CEO of Andrew Leung International Consultants Limited, if Toshiba has what it takes to exit its current financial troubles.
I think that Toshiba is now at a crossroads, basically. They put the wrong bet on nuclear energy, and then without realizing that the tide is rapidly turning. And then all they have is just the chips business. But if you look at the kind of digital economy, they're not the drivers. They're not the leading lights anymore. I mean, you have even companies like Sony have got to compete with the rising companies like Alibaba and Tencent and even companies like Facebook and of course Google. Now we are in the age of the interconnectivity, which is migrating from perhaps even laptop and definitely desktop computers to mobile phones, to smartphones, and everything is connected, including banking. For example, there was fintech, and also this is also related to the media. For example, the newspapers, they're going online, and even cinemas and films. So I don't think that Toshiba is seizing the moment, and that's their biggest failing. So they're really at a crossroads, and if they're not careful, I mean, they could go out of business.
Andrew Leung. And finally this week in the US, a sculpture depicting a fearless girl facing down Wall Street's famous charging bull could be here to stay. Fearless Girl is actually an advertisement for a stock market index made up of companies which have a higher number of women in leadership roles. The bronze was meant to be a temporary fixture, but she's a big crowd pleaser, as Gabe Elizondo reports.
Fearless and going nowhere. The bronze statue of the brave young girl with the ponytail close to New York City's Wall Street, the center of the U.S. financial industry. She's called Fearless Girl, and since she was put there a few weeks ago, she's been staring down the famous charging bull, the undeniably macho statue that symbolizes not just financial power, but also the overwhelmingly masculine culture of the industry. And that's why Fearless Girl was installed here by a local business to bring attention to the lack of women on corporate boards and the gender pay gap. She's become a phenomenon. Most of the time, she's mobbed by tourists wanting to get a photo. An essential stop on the New York City tour bus circuit, selfies, hashtags. She's sparked a conversation among the older generation.
The bull, he's nice, but the girl is very important. It shows to our millennial girls what life is going to be like in this generation. Our generation, my generation, fought for the women of today. So that little girl is saying a lot.
And also the younger generation as well.
I just think it's really cool because when you think of Wall Street, you think of like the bull, or you think of guys in like these business suits dealing with all the important matters. But now that, when I think of Wall Street at least, I think of this statue and all that it means for us.
Fearless Girl was always meant to be a temporary installation. She was supposed to be removed next week. But New York's mayor intervened to keep the statue there another year, saying it's more than just art.
This small but powerful statue has really encapsulated the views and the feelings of so many people. This statue has crystallized this moment in history and has given a message of power and personal empowerment to women and girls.
And that will be standing fearlessly here a little bit longer.
And that is great news. Now, one other story we're keeping on our radar this week, South Africa. Its new finance minister is the fourth in less than 18 months, and all the political reshuffling is putting its currency under pressure. The nation's investment-grade credit rating and economy could also be in danger. We'll be taking an in-depth look at South Africa on next week's Counting the Cost. But that's our show for this week. Don't forget, there's more for you online at aljazeera.com/CTC. That'll take you straight to our webpage, which has individual reports, links, even entire episodes for you to catch up with. You can also get in touch with us. I'm at @afinnegan on Twitter. Please use the hashtag AJCTC when you do, or drop us a line. Counting the Cost at aljazeera.net is our address. But that's it for this edition of Counting the Cost. I'm Adrian Finnegan from the whole team here in Doha. Thanks for being with us. The news on Al Jazeera is next.